Good afternoon. Welcome to Inside Indiana Sports Now with Kent Sterling. It's Thursday, April 15th, 2021. We're brought to you by the great people at Today's Dentistry. Dr. Mike O'Neill, the best dentist I've ever gone to, the only dentist I've gone to the last 27 years. Make him your dentist today when you've got a chance to hire someone who fits you perfectly. This is what you do. It's a first rule of business. It's a first rule of sports management. Hit subscribe, hit like, ring the bell. Let's do all that stuff. And it's interesting. It's a good segue between dentistry, hiring the right dentist, and hiring the right person in the world of sports or in business. Today, I'm on the toilet. All right, this is what we do. I'm wearing pants, nothing to worry about there. But I'm on the toilet today because I do my best thinking on the toilet. And today, I got to think clearly. Today is not really about what's going on in the world of sports in terms of news in Indiana. What it's about today is why Indiana teams, not just Indiana University, but professional franchises in the state of Indiana, are in a really good place right now. We can start with Indiana University because fit has come to mean something at Indiana recently. Scott Dolson being hired as the athletic director fits Indiana. He's worked there forever. He understands Indiana. He's got it in his DNA. The fabric of Indiana University is within Scott Dolson, right? And vice versa, which makes him a really, really good fit. And that makes him a great appraiser of fit. So when he decided Archie Miller's got to go, and we're going to talk about Archie Miller in a minute. When he decided Miller needed to go, who did he hire? He hired a really good fit. He hired Mike Woodson, a 1980 graduate of Indiana University, a guy who went to the Sweet 16. He knows how important it is to beat Purdue, which Archie Miller never did, because Mike Woodson's final game as a Hoosier was in the NCAA tournament against Purdue. Purdue went to its last Final Four over the top of Mike Woodson's final Indiana Hoosier team. They played in the Sweet 16. Beating Purdue, really, really important, which Mike Woodson did in 1979 with his team as Indiana won the NIT. So he gets it. He understands Indiana University, understands Bob Knight and Bob Knight basketball and how important that is to the culture at Indiana. It was not important to Archie Miller. And that's why Archie Miller's hiring was a failure. It was a failure on two different tracks. Number one, it was a failure by Fred Glass to figure out how important fit was in that position. Number two, it was also a failure as Archie Miller decided to take the job, because taking that job requires that you fit that job. But what guy in his right mind, when an athletic director says, we want to pay you $3.5 million for the next 7 years to coach at Indiana, what do you say to somebody who makes that kind of offer? That's $24.5 million over 7 years, and every penny of that is going to wind up in Archie Miller's pocket. He doesn't have to work again, not unless he wants to. His family is set because he went to Indiana. But he was never a fit. He was never going to be a fit. He didn't care about being a fit. Fit was unimportant to Archie Miller, just as hiring Archie Miller showed that fit was unimportant to Fred Glass in terms of that hire. Now, where it came to football, hiring Tom Allen, Tom fits Indiana University. So it's just within the realm of basketball that Fred Glass really revealed himself not to be a very adept hirer where it comes to fit. Mike Woodson does fit. Archie Miller tried to make Archie Miller basketball, and if we win, people are going to look past the ill fit. Well, they didn't win, and they didn't look past it, and that's why Archie Miller no longer has a job as a head coach at Indiana. Mike Woodson understands fit, so does Scott Dolson, so they hired Dane Fife as an assistant coach. Mike Woodson's not a guy who can go out and give a bunch of speeches and make people feel great about Indiana basketball. Dane Fife is a guy who can do that. Dane Fife enjoys that kind of thing. So what Indiana has done, which is so interesting to me, is they hired Dane Fife in the same way that Kelvin Sampson hired Dan Dockich back in 2007 as his director of basketball operations. Dan Dockich was going to be able to speak Indiana basketball to Indiana basketball fans in a way that Indiana basketball fans were entertained by and informed by. Dane Fife, that same kind of guy, with Mike Woodson. Now, combine that with both guys, Dan and with Dane. These guys know basketball at the highest level, and Dane is going to be able to recruit to Indiana at a really, really high level. They've got other assistants who are going to be able to do that too. Kenya Hunter's just figuring out how Indiana works. He just moved to Bloomington in August, for goodness sake, and they just hired another. Yasser Rosemond was hired as an assistant coach, and he's going to have to figure that out too. But what we've heard is that Christian Watford and A.J. Moye, among others with Indiana ties, love Yasser. And so that's a really, really good thing for him, and it's a good thing for Indiana. But fit is critical in hiring. I'll give you another great example. Where it comes to sports in central Indiana, where fit was not considered, and it was kind of like, we don't need to find a fit. We need to find a guy who's a good scout. And so the Indianapolis Colts hired Ryan Grigson. Now, Ryan Grigson gets a bad rap in the city of Indianapolis and by Colts fans everywhere. They say he's an idiot, incompetent. He's not. He's really good at what he does. But he did not fit the Colts, and he did not fit the position of general manager. His skill set is in scouting, not in being a general manager. And you could see it in his body language during media availabilities and in the ways that he tried to ingratiate himself a little bit with the media when he had those media availabilities, telling stories that didn't really reveal him. And I'll give you an example. He told us a story about getting all the scouts together, putting a couple of cases of beer in a cooler and say, okay, we're going to drink some beers, we're going to enjoy ourselves, we're going to go over what we believe, we're going to have it out. We're going to have a good old scout session where we're talking from the heart and we reveal ourselves. But do you know what? None of the scouts, they are so dedicated, none of them grabbed a beer out of the cooler. What does that mean to you? To Ryan Grigson, what it meant was he had a bunch of dedicated scouts who didn't want to drink beer on the job, right? What it really means is he had a bunch of scouts who didn't want to drink beer with him. That's not a good thing. They were suspicious of why the beer was there. I'll guarantee you that there were scouts in that room that would have enjoyed a beer. But they felt like either it was a test, which it was, or it was being done to, kind of get an idea of who these guys are. Like I said, it's a test, right? That's Ryan Grigson. Not necessarily the straight-up guy, right? You got to be that if you're a general manager. So Jim Irsay and the entire family, they learned their lesson. Who'd they hire? Chris Ballard. Scouts do want to drink with Chris Ballard, and Chris Ballard wants to drink with the scouts, and it's a good thing. Not that drinking is great. However, in this instance, it's good if you have a boss and you're comfortable kind of having a cocktail with the boss and the boss is comfortable having a cocktail with you, you can get some business done in that environment and you can find some common ground between you socially that can be a big help. Chris Ballard is a guy who tells the truth. This is a guy who's confident in who he is and what he is, and as a result of that, he earns the respect of everybody in that building. That was not the case with Ryan Grigson. Ryan Grigson is a good man. He's a good father. He is a really good scout. What he is not is a great CEO of that football operation. That is something he is not. Fit is critically important. You have to hire to fit. Jeff Brom fits at Purdue football. Matt Painter really fits with Purdue basketball. Tom Allen, as quirky and weird as he is, he fits Indiana football. And because of that, Indiana football is successful. With the Pacers are really, really interesting to me because I don't know, and I've never known, whether Kevin Pritchard is a fit for the organization or this area. I know he spent some time when he was a kid up the road in Noblesville, grew up, part of his youth was spent there. So I think he gets Indiana, but I'm not sure that he absolutely is bought in, although he's been here for a long time. I'm not sure he's that guy. I'm not sure he fits. I'm not sure he walks around Bankers Life Fieldhouse confident that he's doing the right thing every single day because, look, he went from being a guy who in Portland always made deals. This guy was silly with deals right? He was trading people constantly. With the Pacers, he is very, very particular about the timing and the construct of those deals. He doesn't make a deal to make a deal. What he does is when he feels like a player is on his way out the door, he trades that player. When Victor Oladipo comes to him or makes it known that he wants to play someplace else and he's going to leave Indiana at the end of his contract, he trades him. Did the same thing with Paul George. Other than that, not a whole lot of deals coming from Kevin Pritchard. I don't know whether that's a sign of a really confident guy. I think it was confident to let Nate McMillan go because you knew what you had in Nate McMillan. The Pacers were going to finish 4th or 5th in the Eastern Conference with that roster and with Nate McMillan as a coach. He fires Nate and then hires the other Nate, Nate Bjorkgren. Interesting. I thought a very, very confident move. So the fit, and it could be that Kevin Pritchard fits. It just doesn't feel perfect for me. I'm not sure. But I've always felt a little bit wobbly about the fit between Pritchard and the Pacers. Butler, you know Butler's always going to hire to fit. They're always going to hire to their culture. You know, going all the way back, they decided they wanted the culture of Barry Collier all the way back. They rehired him once he left for Nebraska. They hired him to become the AD. And Barry continued hiring Butler guys, one after another after another. There was nobody who has held that position for a minute who didn't come from the Butler family in some way, shape, or form. Thad Matta, Todd Licklider, Brad Stevens, Brandon Miller, Chris Holtman, Lavelle Jordan either played, studied, or coached at Butler University. They know how important culture is, the Butler way, right? That's what it is. The Colts kind of need to do the same thing. They kind of wobbled, right? Because Bill Polian, let's face it, while an excellent appraiser of talent, there were some areas of weakness with Bill Polian, particularly internally within that building. And so Bill Polian had to go. Chris Polian had to go. And what'd you wind up with? You wound up with Ryan Grigson and then Chuck Pagano, who, while a survivor of the highest order as a football coach with the Colts, frankly, wasn't very good as a head coach. When he had Andrew Luck, he was pretty good. When he didn't have Andrew Luck, he wasn't very good. And that was Chuck Pagano. You know, that's the curse, I guess. You have a great quarterback, people think that you can coach your ass off. You don't have a good quarterback, you look like a putz. Jim Caldwell was a terrific NFL head coach, right? In 2009 and 2010, while he had Peyton Manning as a quarterback. And then in 11, the wheels came off the cart, and it was, bye, Jim. We'll see you later. And then he goes to Detroit. And he's not the guy you want. You're not going to put his face on billboards, and you're not going to have him face front with the media as your voice in the way that the Colts kind of do with Frank Reich. You're just not going to do that with Jim Caldwell. But he can coach his ass off. He is a really good football coach. Fit is really, really important. Frank Reich fits, and he hires people who fit his character. And that's the way it is. And you can be critical of it or you can be praiseful of it. But he is always going to, you know what, Carson Wentz, that they kind of came together over biblical scripture in their initial meeting in Philadelphia. This is a big deal with Frank Reich. He's not going to have an agnostic or an atheist on his staff because it just doesn't fit with him. Fit is critical. And that people at Indiana University are starting to hire toward it rather than deny it, rather than go outside the family, I think is terrific. And that is why Indiana as a basketball program is going to be pretty damn good next year and beyond. Want to tell you about this great bathroom read. Speaking of being on the toilet, sorry if my being on the toilet is offensive to you in some way. Actually, I'm not sorry at all. It's just where I do my best thinking. And I ruminated a lot over this. Oops. It is The Art of Learning from Mistakes and Adventures. I wrote it. It's available on Amazon. You can get the audiobook as though listening to me here isn't quite enough. You can buy it here. All the mistakes, at least 37 mistakes I've made, and what I learned from them so you don't have to make the same mistakes. How about that? Tomorrow morning, Breakfast with Kent, bright and early, 6 o'clock in the morning on Facebook Live, and then immediately thereafter on YouTube. All brought to you by the wonderful people at Today's Dentistry. Give them a call. All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow morning.